webcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everybody. We'll be starting the webinar in about 5 minutes. We're still a little early, so I appreciate your patience. Hi, everybody. We'll be getting started in about 2 minutes. Thank you. Hi, everyone, and thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us for our webinar on ProjX360's best practices. Today, just a couple housekeeping rules to start it out. I'm going to be going through kind of the overall workflow of everything, of the proper way, how Projects was designed and the best practice to go through the workflow from how our industry works, from the sales process to generating the proposal to getting into the project management side of the software. Please hold all your questions for the end. We'll do a Q&A after the webinar's done, after I'm done going through everything. So basically that's the focus today, is kind of just going through the whole workflow of the software. And I'll start doing probably 2 of these a month to go through, and we might even condense it down and pick certain sections of the software and go even a little more in depth with them also. That being said, I'm going to get started. And again, if you could just hold your questions to the end, that would be great. And we'll do a Q&A at the end of everything. So starting with the sales process, when a lead comes in, you're going to want to go to people, and you're going to want to start with people. Even if there's a company involved, you always have a contact person at a company. So you'll want to go over and go to add person under people. You'll enter the information. Now, if there is a company, you can select a company right from here and associate it. Or if you don't have one yet, you can just hit add new company and add a company right here if you want to. You'll put in that contact's information. You'll select who the salesperson is going to be. In the settings of the CRM, you can go through and create different sources of where your business is coming from, because you'll be able to run reports in the reporting section based on this. Same thing with statuses and tags. And then we do have custom fields. So here's where you're going to want to put, if there's any additional information that you want your team to gather about this contact, this is where you're going to want to create those fields. And then you're going to save that person. It's going to save them into our database here. We do have, there is a search feature throughout the software. So you can search in a current field that you're in right here. It's always going to be in the upper right-hand corner of whatever page you're on. But then we have a overall master search on top of this toolbar over off to the left. And there you can search by projects, clients, work orders, and tasks. So in this case, I'm going to use the search bar over here because I'm going to search for clients. And again, you can search by name, you can search by company, you can search by address, whatever you'd like. When you click and go into that client information, you'll see all the information that you entered here. Over time, you will see any associated records with them. So you'll see any proposals that are related to them, any projects that are related to this client, any work orders, or any invoices. And all of these are actually clickable to go right into, like in this case, the project from here. So you can always reference what's ever associated with this contact at any times. During the sales process, your sales team can actually use the activity section to create to-dos or templates of to-dos. You can create them for them, or they can create them for themselves as a reminder. An activity can be anything. It could be to set up an appointment, to do a follow-up call, to just a to-do. They can see what's been completed by what's green, and then they can check things off by hitting the cog and hitting in the checkbox right here as they finish things. And then we also have below that where the salespeople can add their sales meetings right from here, clicking the schedule button, into the calendar, into the sales CRM calendar, so they can add their meetings if they wish to do so. When you're using our calendar and using the activities, that's what triggers the automated email called the daily rundown every day. So if the salesperson has an activity that's due that day, or if they have a calendar event on that day, they'll get an automated email early in the morning with the list of that agenda for that day. So that helps, preventing things from falling through the cracks. Over here are the associated deals with this person. And a deal is an opportunity in our software. You can add a deal right from here by clicking the add deal and then filling out all the information. Here's where and I'll come back and go into deals in a little more detail. Here's your custom fields information. So this is the information you filled in for your custom fields. That's where you can find that. And then we do have the notes section for the client where you can add notes. And when you do add notes, it stamps the author and the date and time. When you do go into a deal, you can see what the estimated deal value is, your expected close date, how long it's been aging. You can create custom fields for deals. So any additional information that you want to gather, you can do that in the settings. We have a separate notes section for deals, so you can keep your notes organized and everything like that by the deal. And if there's any special documentation or anything that you want to upload or attach to the deal, you can do so right here. But now you've met with the client and you're ready to generate a proposal. So how that works is while you're in the deal here, or if you weren't in the deal, you would go to the client, find the deal, click on it, and right here is the create proposal button. This is where you'll select the create proposal, and this is where it pulls all that information over into the proposal tool. If you do need to make any edits on anything, you can do so by clicking on it. If not, you'll grab who's actually creating this proposal. And just so you know, we call kind of the salesperson the designer in our software. That's what that refers to. So this could be the salesperson. I mean, if your engineer creates the proposals, your engineer can be listed here, whatever you'd like. You can create pricing rules to the proposal, and you can have as many pricing rules as you want. An example of a pricing rule might be a customer discount, and then you can decide if it applies to labor, equipment, or to both. And it creates that pricing rule. And you can have multiple pricing rules to a proposal. So another example of a pricing rule might be how you calculate project management. And then it might be 10% of equipment, and that pricing rule is created. You have the capability of dragging and dropping the order the pricing rules appear in the proposal to the customer. So you can organize them the way you wish to do so. You'll select your sales tax rate over here that applies. In the software, you can create as many different payment schedules as you'd like. The payment schedule, and you can select the payment schedule that best applies for this particular proposal. And then keep in mind, the payment schedule is a percentage of the total. So, this particular one is 3 payments, 50%, 40%, 10%. And when you create the payment schedules, you put descriptions like 50% due upon acceptance, 40% due upon equipment delivery, 10% due upon substantial completion. And then also when this proposal is approved, you'll be able to progress invoice off this payment schedule. And I'll go through that with you in a little bit. You can create different templated scopes of work and select the one that best applies. And the templated scopes of work are these are designed to be a basic description to the customer. This is not your technical design for your technicians or anything like that. This is designed as a generic, in layman's terms, description of the scope of work for this proposal. You'll be able to also select from different contracts. So you could have multiple contracts you can put into the system for the different types of work you do and select the contract that best applies. Then you'll go over to locations. You'll build all your locations in the settings that you use on a regular basis, and then you'll simply just drag over to the right the ones that apply to this particular proposal. If you have something very specific to this proposal that you don't want to add to your database, you just want to add it to the proposal, all you have to do is click that plus symbol right here, and it'll add it just to the proposal itself. And then keep in mind, you can also drag and drop the order you want the rooms to appear on the proposal to the customer. When you're done with that, you'll go over to systems. You can create as many systems as you want, and again, you'll drag over to the right the ones that best apply to this particular proposal. And the systems are really a filtering feature. You can create whatever systems you want, like I have control system, audio, video, televisions, lighting control. It's for filtering, and I'll get more into depth of what the filtering actually does in a little bit. You can also drag and drop the order they appear on the proposal to the customer. When you're done with all that, you'll go over to the cog and you'll go to build proposal. This will take you into the proposal builder. Here's where you can add product, and you can add product to the proposal a variety of different ways. The first option is in our product manager down here, you can add product. And then in the proposal here, the search feature searches that product database. So if you were looking for a Sony and you know it was an XBR television and maybe you didn't know the rest of it, doesn't matter. You can type in what you know. It'll pull everything back from your local product database right here so you can find what you're looking for. When you decide what room you want it in, you'll expand the location. You'll grab the product, drag and drop it to the system, or in this case would be televisions. It then, as you know, you can also add accessories to a product. So you can add whatever accessories that are associated with it. Like this television, for instance, has an HDMI cable and a wall mount associated with it. If you didn't need one of these or any of these, you can just click on them and turn them off and it won't add them to the proposal. So in this case, it just added the TV and the wall mount. Also, you'll want to go through your settings and set up all your different labor phases that you use. And then you'll put your hourly rate and you'll put your labor phase and labor hours that are associated with that product. You can also bring in product from Portal. So if you're new to the projects and you want to start building your database, you know, I always do. You know, what I did for my own integration company is my first handful of proposals, I actually just built the database as I did those proposals. So that's the nice thing with Portal. So when you're looking for things like, say, I'm looking for a Crestron DM piece, maybe I don't know the whole model number, just type in that. Again, it'll reach out to Portal's database, bring back everything that's related. When I click on the product that I find that I want, it'll bring over the product image, it'll bring over the manufacturer, the model, the description, and the retail and your cost. As long as it brings over the cost, as long as you've set up inside of Portal with them who you're authorized to resell. So you'll want to go to portal.io, get all that stuff set up so your cost comes over. And then you can sit here and add it to the queue, and it adds it to the queue in the background. And I can sit here and add as many things to the queue, you know, as I want, you know, and it adds it to the background. When I'm done, I can just X out of it. And then I can bring that product into the proposal. So maybe I want this in the equipment closet under control system. When you first do bring it over from Portal, it'll give you this yellow warning. What this is telling you is that there's no labor phase or labor hours associated with this product at this time. So it's not a big deal. You can fix that right here inside the proposal. You don't have to get out of it. Just click on the manufacturer, go to labor, grab your labor phase that you want to associate with it and how long it takes to install. And then you can actually click the global button right here and it'll ask you to add it to the product manager, and it'll add it to the product manager, and it's all ready for you next time. So that's how easy it is to bring stuff into your product database. You can also, even while you're building the proposal, go to the accessories section, and you can add accessories to the product from both the local product database and from Portal right here. So you can even build the accessories as you're building the proposal. So you can really, you know, kind of fine tune your database as you're building proposals. If again, you're new to the system, and build your database that way. And that way you're kind of starting also with a nice clean database instead of maybe if you're bringing something over from an older system that you are working in that might have a lot of dirty data in it. And then also you can build packages in the proposal tool. So you can build, you know, whatever systems that you sell a lot. Packages, I always suggest, you know, in my own integration company, you know, we're big Crestron guys. So, but our Crestron systems, the core of them are really the same, you know. So I build a package for kind of, I do a large and small Crestron system is kind of what I did. And it has the processor that for each one of those packages, you know, how many, you know, audio zones, you know, so the proper, you know, audio switcher, if it's swamp or if it's just a 4 by or 6 by 100. and all that kind of stuff. Get the core stuff, get the rack in there, get, my watt box, my oversee watt boxes in there, all that kind of stuff in the packages, so you can streamline building your proposals a lot. And then also, if you have surround systems that you sell, if you have a, core surround system you sell a lot in family rooms or something, build that once, and then you just drag it over, and it brings everything over for you automatically. Because even with that, core Crestron system that I was talking about, you can go into the package once you drag it over. If you don't need some of the items, just go in and delete them, and it just removes them from this proposal. It doesn't remove it from the master package. And then keep in mind, you can also drag and drop the order you want things to appear on the proposal to the customer here too. When you're done with when you're done building your proposal and you're ready to generate the proposal, just simply go to the cog and go to generate proposal. And here's where you can kind of do some customization and get the proposal set up the way you want it set up. So you can filter by category, you can filter by location, you can filter by manufacturer, you can filter by system. My favorite's always location. Then don't forget, we have this advanced options feature over to the side here. So if you click that, you can decide if you want to show product images. You can decide if you want to show line item pricing. You can decide if you want to break labor out by phase. So we give you, quite a few different options here. So this is a good thing to go around and play with. Once you get the proposals the way you want, I would click down at the bottom, all proposal types, and save it as your master default. And then if you do need to make any edits, like maybe on this particular proposal, I don't want to show line item pricing, I can just save it for just this report. So you do have the different options there on that. Over here are those systems. So this is that filtering feature I was talking about earlier. So here, what systems are designed for is allowing you to kind of filter out your proposal in stages if you wish to do so. So maybe the client only wants to sign off on the core, control system, and they want to hold off on audio, video, and televisions. So you can turn those off and just create a proposal with just the control system items, or any combination of these. So it could be multiple or it could be all. So it's just a nice filtering feature. I use it myself in my own company. I break it out by control system, by lighting control, by motorized shades, all that kind of stuff, just to show them the overall detailed breakout of, instead of one just big lump number. Because everything, how clients are, even though you might have, like, especially televisions, you might have 15 TVs in a job totaling, $40,000-$50,000, and the overall job's only 120,000, and they're like, oh, the Crestron system's, way expensive. Well, remember, I want to point out to that client that, hey, $50,000 of this are televisions that you're going to go pay at Best Buy too. So that's what I can use systems for. You can create your own color scheme. So to add a new color scheme, just hit the add new. You can upload as many cover images as you want, select the cover image that applies. And then here you can download a printable version of the documents, or we also have the email feature where you can email a link to the customer. They click on the link and it pulls up the proposal the way you organized it. So your color scheme, the client information, the cover image, this is your company logo and information right here, your scope of work that you selected, how you filtered it, and then I did line item pricing and images. I broke labor out by phase. Here are those pricing rules. And when I adjusted the order, see how project management's before a customer discount? So that's what that ordering is. So to kind of adjust the order here that it'll show. Here's your total. And then, your payment schedule did all the math for you and everything. And then your contract. And then your client's got an option. They can request revisions, where if they click on that, a box will pop up and they can type in the changes they want. And it'll send you a notification. Or if everything looks good, they can do an electronic signature, hit approved. It sends you a notification. And then also inside the software, under revisions, it shows you the date and time that was approved. So now that that was approved, what you're going to want to do is check it approved right here, or with the cog, and so it locks it out that you do it. So you get an option right here. You can delete revisions. Like if there are multiple revisions here, you could delete those. I personally don't do that. I keep all my revisions for my records. Because I'd like to go back and reference, the client says, well, how come we didn't do that TV in the master bedroom? Well, we did, Mr. Client. On revision 4, we took it out, because of cost. So I always keep them personally, but you don't have to. We give you the option. And now that I did that, you see how this new progress invoicing tab popped up? So here's where you're going to be able to generate progress invoices as needed from the payment schedule. So you can select which one you want to create, and you can create those. But then you're going to want to, also, which I usually do first, I actually create a project first. Go to the cog here, and we want to create the project because it's a real deal. This proposal's been signed. It's all good. Let's create the project. So we're going to hit create the project. It brings all the information over into the project management side of the software. We can then select who our project manager is going to be. On the More button right here, you're going to click that. Here's where you can select your project status. Like, is it happening this week? Is it next week? Is it in progress? These status names are editable, so you can name these whatever you want in the settings. Then you can also use the category feature. This is handy. I use it in my own integration company for the different builders we work with, so I can filter by that. But it could be builders, it could be businesses you're working with, developments you're working on, whatever you want it to be. You could have it be that. It's just purely a filtering feature for you. So you can select that, and then you're going to hit the checkbox and create the project. So here, you're in the project setup. So first off, you can pick a project color if you like to color code things. And to add more colors, you can create as many colors as you want, with the color scheme right here from the whole color palette. Or just grab one from your, presets that you have. You can create in the off to the side here under projects, you see the project setup templates. It's kind of grayed out because we got a modal open in front of it, but you can create different templates for different types of projects, large projects, small projects, commercial projects, mid-sized, whatever you want. What this does, it'll auto-select time tracking phases, trades, checklists, and forms. Whatever you've selected when you set up that template, it'll automatically do that for you. Or you can just manually set things up. And I'm going to go through this manually because I want to show you everything. So for under time tracking, when you're pushing from a proposal, you don't use these time tracking phases. You're going to check the box. I don't want to use time tracking on this against this project yet, because we're going to push, because the next step after this that you're going to be prompted for is going to be to push over the labor phases and labor hours associated with this proposal, because that's what we actually want to track time against. I can grab any associated trades. So if I have a particular builder I want to associate or anything, I can select those right there. I can select my checklists I want to do on this particular job. And then I can also go through my custom forms that I created, my library, and select any of the custom forms that I want to add here. And even down here are the preset forms that the system, the software came with, that you can even select those too if you wish to do so. When you're done, you'll simply just go and X out of here. It'll then prompt you, like I mentioned, to push all the proposal over. So if you're doing the whole proposal, which most cases you're going to be, but you can select individual items if you want to. But if you're just doing it all, just hit the checkbox on the top, Hit next. It'll show you all the labor phase and labor hours that are being pushed over to this project for time tracking. And if you were adding like a change order and stuff onto an existing project, you could also add. You could keep this check. You would keep this check to add to existing labor. But if it's been a while and you want to override any of the labor that was related previously to the project, you can do that by checking this box. And then you'll hit save, and it creates the project right then and there. So now we're in the project details page of the software. So this is the dashboard for the project. I'm going to go I want to go back to, this is where everything's going to be done. And I'm going to go back one step though. So you can see all your projects. If you click this projects tab right here, you can see we use this page a lot in our weekly meeting. So in my own integration company, we have what we call a jobs in progress weekly meeting with sales and the project managers in engineering and programming. And we go through all the projects, but we filter it by what's going on this week, what's going on next week, what's in progress, and in progress to us is, it might be between a pre-wire and trim or a trim and final. It's still a live project, but it's just, we're not going out there for a little bit. And then you have delayed that are just delayed. And then you got your in and out of warranty for service. Here's where those categories come into play too. So if I want to see all my, go to this week and I want to see all my jobs related to bedrock development that are going on this week, I can do that and it filters it for me. So that's where that filtering feature kind of comes into play. When I go back into that project details page, I want to walk you through all this now and what all this means and what you can find here. So think of a project first off as a location, not a client. A client is associated with a project, but a client, as you know, in our industry could have multiple projects. So if there were change, remember how we pushed over the proposal and everything? And I'm in a different project right now because I want to show you something with data in it. But when we pushed our proposal over, if we had other change orders and stuff, they would all be listed here because you're going to push those over and associate those change orders with the project also. So they'll be listed here so the text can click on any one of these and it shows the overall scope by location so they can kind of reference that. It pushed all the labor phases and labor hours over into the time tracking module so you can track time against what was proposed versus actual, so you can see instantly if a phase is going over budget, and you can click into that and get drill down into that if you wish to do so. Over here, you can see all your work orders that have ever been created for this project, and you can filter them then by project. We have two types of work orders: project work orders, which are the work orders created during the build of the project, and service work orders, which are the service calls after the fact. Also, on a side note, all these different boxes for the different sections of the project details page here can be custom sorted for you. If you go to the cog and you go to edit layout, you can drag and drop the order you want those in, or you can also turn on and off sections if you don't want one by clicking on the eye. So I just wanted to point that out to you that those are sortable for you to your preference. You can create custom checklists. So remember how we selected all the different checklists when we were setting up the project? So where you're going to create checklists is over under projects, under manage checklists. And that's where you can go generate any checklists you want, whether it's a pre-wire checklist, trim checklist, final checklist. What these checklists really are designed for, they're more templated, they're more generic. Your detailed checklists, like that are more specific to the project you're on, will be done inside of work orders. But this is like, a generic, pre-wire checklist, for instance. with basically all the steps that your tech should follow to make a pre-wire successful. They should really know these things, but this is kind of a guideline to keep them in check and to keep them aware. You know, people just forget things sometimes, not to do the basics. And then as they check things off, it does stamp who checked it off and when for accountability, and does update the percentage of completion of that checklist for you. Discussions, this is really handy. So instead of creating all these random emails or checklists, get your team in the habit of using the discussion inside the project. When you add a discussion, you just simply hit the plus symbol. You'll give it a title, you'll describe it, and then you'll select who you want that to partake in that discussion. Everybody selected, as long as you have the notifications set up properly, which I'll kind of go through a little bit of the notifications, we'll get a notification that a new discussion was created for them with a link in that discussion. They'll click on the link. It'll take them into the discussion so they can reply to it, and they can reply to it, and it stamps who replied and when, so you have a log too. So now everything just lives inside the project where it belongs. That's the whole design of it. So you can create one-off tasks also. So the majority of your tasks for technicians and stuff will be done inside of work orders. But there's always a need for a one-off task. An example of a one-off task might be to create an invoice task for the office manager to create an invoice for the deposit. When you create your task, you'll give it a title, you'll assign it to somebody, and you can only assign one person to a task. We did that on purpose, because if you allow multiple people to be assigned to a task, who knows who's accountable for it? If I assign Steve Denny and Doug Greenwald to one task, you know, Steve's going to think Doug's going to do it, and Doug thinks Steve's going to do it. You know, so no, because we get asked this question a lot. That's not what a task is designed for. A task is done specifically for an individual. You'll give it a description, and you'll set a due date. They'll get a notification that a new discussion was created, and then also in the notifications, you can set up that you get notified anytime the status changes of any one of your tasks. We have cloud storage for the project, so you can create folders to keep everything nicely organized, but you can upload anything that's related. We want everything to live inside this project, so you know everybody knows where to go to find anything related to this project. So floor plans, system programs, pre-wire photos, any of that stuff all lives right here. You'll see any invoices that have ever been created for this project. There's two types of invoices. We do allow you just to create one-off invoices. We're not trying to be an accounting software. We don't want you to do all your accounting in our software. That's what QuickBooks or Xero's for. The two types of invoices we have are progress invoices, which are those invoices I showed you that are created off the payment schedule from the proposal. And then we have service call invoices that can be created from the work orders. And I'll show you how those are done in a little bit. But that's really what our invoice section is designed for. We do allow you to create one-off, but really, we're not trying to be that an accounting software. That's why we integrate with QuickBooks and Xero. That's what they're good at. We're tied to Google Maps so you can see where the project is. We have a new notes section, and then there's a repair tracking section here too for this project. So once this project gets older and it's kind of in service mode, and say, you know, it's been a year or two since you've done the install, and you have to go back and do a service call, and, you know, maybe the projector has to go in for repair. You can create a service repair ticket right here, or in a work order that I'll show you how to do that too, which the work order will be associated with the project. And it shows here for this project all the service repair tickets you've created, so you have a log of that. And then we also have our custom forms. So if you go up to the upper left-hand corner here and click on forms, you can create as many different custom forms as you want. And you remember, when we were setting up the project, we selected what forms, just like we did checklists, that we wanted to associate with that project. And so like you can create your network form for the client and house all their network information, system design, and all that kind of stuff. So you can create as many forms as you want. Also, there's a scheduling button right here. So if you want to see if this project is scheduled for any time coming up, you can see it right here. And so you can see it from the project view itself, along with obviously the calendar view too. Then kind of going into work orders. So that kind of is the gist of the project details page and everything that lives in there. But going into work order, the work order dashboard, this is really handy for your project manager. So they can work kind of out of this one page for creating work orders for any project and any employee. To create a work order, they'll simply just go to add a work order right here. But I want to cover before we go into a work order everything. So you can filter the work orders by all, what's not scheduled, what's in progress, what's been completed, what's been invoiced, what's been canceled, and what's been archived. So I want to kind of discuss this a little bit with people. So not scheduled, if you click on it, it'll show you all your work orders that aren't scheduled. And you'll also be able to see those in the calendar view so they don't fall through the cracks. You can see all the work orders that have been scheduled. The big thing is in progress. So when you click on in progress, because you might have a work order that stretches over a few day period or even a week or a few weeks. This is where the project manager goes to see all the work orders that are still in progress, but then they can click on them and go into them and see where they're at. Because in the work order that I'm going to show you, when you add tasks, the guys will be checking tasks off. They'll be adding notes to that. So in progress is a really important tab for the project manager to review every day. That should kind of be like in my project managers, that's kind of their first thing to do every morning is kind of go through that. And you can actually go and filter it by in progress and then even by last updated. So you have the most recent ones on top. Then they'll get moved over to completed. So all the completed, and this is another important one. Your office staff will probably want to review the completed ones, to see which work orders are completed and to see if they're billable or not, because you have the status right here, and to make sure they invoice all the ones that are billable and move them to the invoiced section so you know they've been invoiced. So that's a really important kind of workflow of how this is designed. And then to create a work order, you can simply go to add work order. You can select either a client or a project, whichever you'd like, and grab that. When you do grab it, it'll autofill everything in there for you that's related to that project. So you don't have to type in the address or anything again. It autofills it for you. If you do need to edit it, you can, but it does that. You'll give a work order a title. So again, one thing I didn't stress enough is titling things. So you want to create a title that's unique, all the way back from, when you're creating the deal, whereas that carries over into the proposal and that carries over into the project. But same with work orders. My rule of thumb that we do in my company is we always do the client last name, if it's a common last name, comma first name, and then what we're doing. Same thing for here. This is the Allen, or the Doug Smith, I must have reassociated a client. Really, this was the Brian Allen Control 4 system. So I would name it Allen, and then maybe this is the pre-wire work order. Oops. And that's what I would call it. Because how we do work orders in my company, we do them by phase. So we'll do a one big massive pre-wire work order, one big trim work order, one big final work order. But you can do work orders however you want. I always get a rule of thumb. You're going to select what type it is. Is it project or service? We do have this client work order in here. I highly recommend staying away from it. It's just if you want to create a work order for a one-off, you don't have to associate a project with it, but you won't be able to time track against it because you need a project to time track. So I always stick with either project or service. Let's just say this is a project work order. For status, I kind of tell everybody default it to not scheduled, just so it goes in that not scheduled queue and you don't forget about it. And then you can determine if it's billable or not. So most project work orders won't be billable because they're coming, you're doing it from a fixed proposal. So I'm going to grab not billable. I'm going to hit OK. It then generates that work order and everything for everybody. So again, you can see what type of work order it is. If it's project or service, you can click on any of these to change it. So they're all editable. You can, the title comes over here. You can put hours to it because as you know, you can clock into it. So when the guys clock into the work order, it already knows the project and the work order they're on. So all they have to do is grab the phase they're working on and hit start time. And then they're tracking time against the project, the work order, and the phase, all with that one action, and they have a live running clock. If you wish to do so, you could schedule people from here by using this, go right to the schedule or just hitting the plus button here. Again, I recommend doing scheduling inside the calendar. I don't really do it much from here. When you do schedule it, it will show here who's scheduled and for how long. So you do know and have that information right in front of you inside the work order. In the middle here is where you're going to add all your tasks, for your technicians. So, and you can add tasks a variety of different ways to a work order. The first option is the plus symbol right here. So you're going to click it. If there was a proposal involved, you'll go to proposal item, and then you'll search for that proposal. And you can select the proposal. It'll pull all the items up in front of you by location. You can then select the items you want to add to the work order by checking the box next to them and hit add to work order. And it brought over the location so the technicians know where the work needs to be done. It also brought over the product and the quantity and the labor phase and labor hours that were in the proposal for accurate time tracking. Another option is if this was a service work order and maybe you wanted to bring a product in from the product database, you could do so. So you can actually search your product database, select the product and hit add, and it adds that product along with the labor phase and labor hours associated with it to the task list. Another option is you could bring in a whole custom checklist you built from your checklist library. Or if you just want to type things in, just go to item and just type in what you want. And then you can select the labor phase that maybe applies to it, and then even how long you think that task should take, and add it. And it adds that to the work order down here. Don't forget, we can add notes by line item. So if you do have special instructions for a line item, you can add those right here. Or if the guys are having an issue with something in the field, have them add it to the line item because it shows that there's a note there. And if they were having an issue, they could take a photo of it and they can actually upload that photo to that line item. And it shows that there's an attachment there. So again, for communication, I would recommend doing that. They can check things off as they finish so you know what's been completed and what hasn't been. And just like the other checklist, don't forget, it does stamp who checked it off and when, so you can always go reference accountability. And then we have this little calculator up here for the time tracking. So you know how all this has all hours right there? If you just hit this little button, it'll calculate the total time of how many man hours this work order should take. So you can, again, keep it on budget. If it was a service work order and something had to go in for repair, that's what the repair item section is in the work order. They can just click the plus symbol. They can put in the RMA number, the tracking number, the date they're shipping it out, and then they can set a reminder for one of these time frames that if they don't get it back, it'll send them a notification that they're to follow up with that manufacturer so things don't fall through the cracks. To clock out, I'm going to clock out of here. Just hit clock out and hit stop time. It clocks you out of the work order. But then also, if this was a service work order and you wanted your guys the easy way to create an invoice for that service call right from the work order, they can do that. So there's an invoice section right here. They can hit the plus symbol. It'll pull all that client information over into our invoice section. It has your company logo and everything. There's a little clock right here. This is for the guys. They click on the clock. It shows the unbilled time to that work order. All they have to do is check the box and hit OK, and it'll add that time to the invoice. And it knows for final labor, you charge 85 bucks an hour, and it did all the math for them. So they didn't even have to calculate that. But if they do need to edit anything, they can check the quantity and edit it if they have to. Then if they use parts, they can add that a variety of different ways by just clicking the plus symbol here, and they can select item and just manually type things in. They can manually type in labor, or you can bring stuff in from your product database, so you can search your product database. Maybe it's this, and all you have to do is put in the quantity. It brings over the pricing automatically, and it also gives them an option. So we're billing actual time. So I don't want to bring over the labor that's associated with this product, so I'll just uncheck it. But if you weren't billing actual time, you can actually bring over the labor that's associated with it if you'd like, and hit add, and it adds it to the invoice. And you can sit there and add as many items to the invoice as you need to. When you're done, you'll select the tax rate that applies. You can get an electronic signature on invoices. They can collect payment however you collect payment. We do not do the payment processing, but they can mark it paid so you know it's been paid. And then they can also email a copy of the paid invoice to the customer. And then you can push it over to QuickBooks Online or Xero. And then our QuickBooks desktop, we're hopefully going to be releasing that next week is what we're shooting for. We're just finishing some things up. We got to get it over to QuickBooks for approval, but that we're hopefully to have that done next week. And then going into scheduling, so our calendar, when you click on the calendar, you can see all your guys. You can click on any one of your guys and see what their utilization is for the week. You can see, remember I was talking about all your unscheduled progress, service work orders and all your unscheduled project work orders. You can filter the calendar by month, by work week, by day, or by list. And then you can even do some more advanced filtering up here. Like in my own company, I have a dedicated service department. So if I just want to see the service calendar, I can just click on service and it'll just show me the service calendar. Same thing with production here, and same thing with employees and sales. To schedule one of those, unscheduled work orders, you can just grab it, drag and drop it to the day and time you want to schedule it. It loads that day and time automatically for you. And then you can give it a color code if you wish to do so. If you like to color code your calendar, you can do that. You can drag over individual employees, or you can actually create teams and drag over teams. And then when you're done, all you do is X out of it. It'll load all that into the calendar. When it's done loading into the calendar, if you do need to make any edits for anything, you don't have to go into it. You can just drag and drop it longer, drag and drop it to different days and times, and it updates automatically. And then also when you hover over it, it gives you a brief description. You can do an iCal push for the service calendar, the project calendar, the employee calendar, or the sales calendar by doing the iCal. And you can push to Outlook, Apple, or Google. And if you click on those, it'll give you the instructions of how to do that. It is only a one-time setup, and then it'll push automatically for you. And if you don't have a work order and you just want to schedule something for service or production, just go to one of those calendars, like even if it's production, and there's a little plus right here. Just click on the plus and a calendar event will populate, and you can create a calendar event. Going into time tracking, Oh, and one thing too, don't forget the guys have my calendar, my schedule down here. This is for your technicians if they just want to see their calendar. That way they just view their own schedule and don't see everything else. For the time tracking, I showed you time tracking regarding a work order, but there's not always a work order involved. So there's an enter time section here that we gave you that you can just schedule a project. So you can select just a project and a phase. So this is really handy, and all you do is hit start time. This is also really handy for just the non-billable time for your guys. So what you do is you create a project that's your company, and then under the manage phases, you'll create over here, you'll create non-billable time tracking phases for your company project, like warehouse, meetings, training, whatever you want. And that's what they clock into. So for the non-billable time and all that kind of stuff. And you just do that in manage phases here, and you can select the project that you're looking for. And then it'll show you when you select that project, it'll show you any existing phases, but to add new phases, just click the plus, and then you can grab a pre-populated phase that you have, or just hit other, and and you can type in what you need to right there. And then if you do need to edit any times or anything from anybody, as long as you have the permissions for that, you can do so under the manage times. Oops, give me 1 second here. Under the manage times section. And then again, you can search the project. It'll show you all the hours billed in there, and you can hit the edit button and you can edit that, and it'll edit the times to whatever you need to, or you can even add, a new time if you want to right from here. Service, you can filter your service projects by what are in and out of warranty. Then also under the service section, we have another work order dashboard. This is the same thing as that other work order dashboard. It's just pre-filtering all your work orders for just service. So again, if you have that dedicated service department, your service manager can just work out of here to create the service work orders and everything if you wish to do so. And then also under service, the repair tracking, you can see all your repair tracking tickets, and you can filter by what's active, meaning still open, or what's been completed. Then also when you're setting up employees, you can determine what they do and don't have access to in the software by going into the employee and going to the security settings and deciding that. But the other thing that's set up too, keep in mind, all notifications, so you have to go into each individual employee to set up notifications, and we have notifications for everything, for every section. Select the section, it'll show you the notifications available, and then you have a choice of no notification, software only, email only, or both. And then you can even put in a separate email address than what the login is. So sometimes the techs like to do email to SMS, so they get text messages instead. So that's kind of the general workflow of, taking the sales opportunity, creating a proposal, into all the different project management side of things. So I'm going to turn it over to Amy, who's going to read through any questions you have, so we can answer any questions you may have.
Okay, so it looks like the first question, they wanted to know, how did you create the project statuses of this week and next week? So you're going to want to go to the settings configuration area.
Yeah, so what you do is you'll just go to settings configuration, and then right here, project statuses, so they're editable right there. Just click and you can name those whatever you want. And you can even give them their own color code too, right here.
Okay, the next question, they've tried to use the proposal license and found that even their administrative employees that only need to print can access without having a proposal license. Can they access it or build a proposal without having it? So yeah, unfortunately you do need a proposal license in order to access that section. So what you could do, we recommend saving that as a PDF and possibly putting it on the project so that way they can go in and print that proposal at any later time.
Yeah, so maybe save that proposal as a PDF and upload it to the project if you don't have a license for them.
And next question, yes, it is going to be recorded. That'll be posted on our social media and on the website. Seems to be all the questions right now. I guess maybe we'll leave the next minute or so open to see if any new questions come in.
Yeah, if any other questions, just feel free to ask them. So one thing while we're waiting for any other questions, we do have our inventory management system coming out later this year. It's going to be towards the end of the year. We're finishing that up right now. QuickBooks Desktop, we're trying to get that released next week. We're just finishing some things up on it right now. So we're working hard on that. So we're constantly working on things to, enhance the software. After we're done with inventory next year, some of the things that we're, probably going to go into, I'll share with you too. So we do have under announcements our roadmap. We're going to update this in a little bit. So we're finishing inventory and QuickBooks. We're probably going to go into the client portal next and maybe some commercial proposal stuff. The client portals tends to be a big request. So we're going to probably go into that where your client will be able to request service calls and add some kind of like little ticketing system into the software.
So a few more questions did come in. They're wanting to know, is there a trick to see the values of proposals without having to calculate?
Well, no, so that's what the calculate totals is. So I'm not sure if this is what you're referring to, whoever asked that question. So in the proposal, when you go into a proposal, let me just go into the more recent one that we just did. You'll go to the cog and you can go to calculate proposal. This is a quick way to calculate it. It breaks it out too. This allows you to see the margins and everything. So you can see the margins by product, by labor, and by overall proposal. And then you can even break it down by location too. And then this is downloadable too, if you want to.
There was a sort of general question of what does it look like from a text perspective. If you're referring to the software in general, everything is fit in a responsive platform, so everything will scale down for your device.
Yeah, for instance, going into a project maybe. So we're built in a responsive design platform. So I did this whole demonstration on a Microsoft Surface Pro tablet PC. But when you're in there, so it auto formats. But like from a phone, for instance, it'll look similar to this. See how it stacks everything nicely? And then they still have access to the entire software.
Next question, where are the items in the RMA?
The items in the RMA. So you talking the service?
Yeah, I would
ticket?
imagine the repair tickets.
The repair ticket. So when you go into a repair ticket or create a repair ticket, you would put in the RMA number right here, the tracking number right here, and then you can explain in detail what what it is. You can put in what product it is or anything like that in the equipment details section right here. And then you also have an internal notes if you need that, but equipment details is right here. And the RMA number is right there in the tracking.
Next question, when choosing builders as a category, does it bill the builder? No, it does not. That'll just filter down by category as you're searching.
Yeah, the categories for projects are more for this page when you're on the projects page right here. And you remember how you can filter by, is it happening this week? Is it happening next week? But then also, this is where the categories come into play. So what it's for is like, hey, maybe I want to see all my bedrock developments. I want to see all projects for bedrock development, and it'll filter all that out and just show me I got 21 projects for bedrock development.
Related to that RMA again, they're asking, does the equipment details show up on the overall screen?
It doesn't show it up in the project. Let's see if it goes in the repair tracking. It doesn't show up here in here. You'd have to, if you want to get that specific that it shows up in this screen before that, you'd probably want to put the product maybe in the name of the repair ticket if you want to do that. But you'd have to click in to go into the repair ticket to see the equipment information.
Next question, are they able to split up invoices like between a builder and a client?
No. And again, I'm going to stress, we're not an accounting software. You know, I mean, if you're going to get, you know, kind of a little more in depth in invoicing and stuff, if it's from a proposal, I would push the proposal over to QuickBooks or Xero. It pushes the proposal into the estimating section, and you can create invoices from there. But I don't even know if QuickBooks can split invoices for sure between a client and another person, between two people. I don't think they don't even do that, but I could be wrong.
They're asking if the project layout gets changed, does it change for all people? Yes, it does. We don't have anything customizable per person, but that is something that we're looking at for the future.
Yeah, that's kind of on our roadmap for next year for, you know, customizable dashboard, which means basically customizable by login. Right now, it is just kind of global.
For the daily rundown, can others be on an automatic email as well?
No, you have to be, how the daily rundown is triggered is it's triggered by the person that's associated with that client. So whoever is the salesperson associated with this is the one that's going to get so the salesperson. That's the guy. That's the person that's going to get the daily rundown. You can't have multiple people on that.
Anyway,
if you want,
go ahead.
if you do want to, I'm sorry. If you do want to see activities though for everybody and run a report under the reporting, there is a CRM activities report you can run, and that way you can run, you know, pick your time frame, and then you can pick the employee you want to run it for. So if you want to see if they have any activities or anything, you could do that. I don't have any data, but.
Is there any way to send all products over from the work order into the invoice in just a click?
No, you can do it. So work orders are just basically, it's a text line inside there. When you do create an invoice from a work order, oops. If there's lines on it, so let me just add some lines here to this particular one. It'll bring over the text itself, but it won't bring over any dollar value because a work order doesn't, the items in the work order here don't have a dollar value at this time. So if I went to create an invoice from here, I can go to the plus symbol here and go to item, and I can hit this plus symbol right here, and it'll show me the line items inside the work order right here. You'd have to select them one at a time, but you'll have to put in what you're charging for them. It doesn't bring over any pricing.
Okay, so next question. Can you go through the workflow of a service call from a tech? So
a service call, if someone calls in, you're going to go to the project. You're going to search for the project, obviously. So, let's find the project that we're looking for. You can just type that in and go to projects. It'll bring back everything that's related to what you typed in there. You can select the project you want to go into. Then you'll go over here to hit add work order, and it'll create the work order, and you can start creating the work order for that. And then you can go schedule that or whatever. If the client or the project didn't exist yet, you're going to go back to projects right here. You're going to go to add projects. You're going to have one extra step. You're going to have to give the project a name. Like I said, start with the client last name first. You'll hit add new client, fill in all the information, the vitals, name, address, phone number, because obviously you don't have that yet. It'll fill it in down here. Select your project manager and designer and create that project. And I would name the project, the client last name and just service if it's a legacy project, and create that project, then go in that project and create the work order, and then do your scheduling and everything from there.
What's the best process for pick list until you have inventory launched? So the pick list can be found under the project if you want to pull that up.
Yep. So pick lists are inside of a project. So when you push the proposal over, you can select the proposal, and it pushes it over by location, and you can download a CSV format of this, or actually print it just the way it is right here. So you can download a CSV and check things off as you get it for a pick list. But that's all changing. That'll get a lot more advanced with the inventory piece.
They're asking on the proposal how to fix when it prints out. So maybe we want to go over the proposal settings and what you can adjust.
Sure. So when you're printing out a proposal, let's go to the proposal, go to generate proposal, select your type. I'm going to select the cover image, and I'm just going to download it instead of using the email feature. So you can adjust the font size for the proposal name, the client name, and the cover image anytime you want. But then also the page breaks are right off to the side here. So we have the page break on automatically at scope of work and where the equipment starts. But if you go to your print button right here and just go into your preview, and you can scroll through, and if it's off a little bit like that, you can change the fonts. So you can make things smaller. So if I want to make the proposal name smaller, I can go down smaller, and then I can hit the preview again, and it brings everything up. Still a little off with the control, so I'm going to go down a little smaller like that. So it brings the scope up. It has all this. I can decide when it has the equipment split out in the middle of a location. If you don't want that, I can go back. So I'll hit cancel out. I'll go to it was at the guest house. I can turn on the page break over here for the guest house, and then preview it again. And what it'll do, it'll stop it right there and start the guest living on a new page. And I could do the same thing with the contract. Like if the contract was broken up right there, and I want to go put the contract on its own. So you might have to go back and forth between the preview a couple times just to get it to where you want, but there you go.
In work order creation, can an auto add client dropdown be prompted?
So in the work order creation, can you say that again?
Can an auto add client drop down?
I'm not sure what they're meaning by that. Auto add. So when you go into work orders and when you create a work order, you can grab a client.
So I think they're asking about the add a client right from here.
No, because with a work order, you need a client and a project to exist. So no, we don't have that right now. It's maybe that's something we can add, but we don't have that feature at this time. No, you have to create the clients and the project first.
There's asking if there's a way to permanently save your settings after you customize your proposals. No, there's not, because every proposal will have a different scope of work and different sections that you may want to toggle on or off.
Well, no, that's not true, Amy. So yeah, so when you do go to your proposal settings, when you set those up, so when you go to generate proposal here, and you go to the and you find, so no matter what, you'll have to select how you want to filter it, by category, by location, by manufacturer, by system. But then under the advanced options, if you like, you find out how you like it, like with product images, with line item pricing, all these different features. Once you get it the way you like it here, you'll hit all reports, and that'll be your default of when you go to it. And then if you want to make changes, you'll click and go into it and turn off, like if you want to turn off prices for a certain proposal, you'll only go for this report only. But if you want to go through one time and pick all the things that you like on the advanced feature options of how it looks, that you can do and save for the report. But then you'll also have, what you always have to do is go to, your systems and select if you want to filter it by that. You can make, your color scheme default right there, so that always goes. But then you also have to pick your cover image. But
Yeah, I think
those
they were more so asking for like the page breaks, setting those, and then the font sizes.
I'm sorry. No, those are going to be all different.
Just because you're going to have different scope of work sizes, different contracts, and that's all going to affect how the proposal gets laid out.
Any other questions or?
They're asking, where do you see the project colors if assigned in a template?
So when you create the project, or go into a project is where you can edit that. So if you go into a project, let's get into one and edit project. Here's the color.
Next question. They're finding that the brand and model only is hard in the pick list to use without the descriptions.
Oh, you want description. Are wanting descriptions added into
The pick list.
That might be something we might be able to add in the future. If you could put in a feature request, and that way, just so you know, the feature requests do go into a list for us. We do keep them. We don't just ignore them. I mean, obviously, this past year we've been tied up pretty heavily with inventory. That's been a huge undertaking. We've been working on that for a year, but we do want the feedback. It is something that we could possibly do. So send that in as a feature request. And we're 15 minutes over, so we probably are gonna have to wrap it up. Maybe a couple more questions.
Let's see. Question again about why can't others view print the proposal without a proposal license? Just because our permission is tied to having of that proposal license, so you will need to have that active per other user. But as we suggested, just save it to the overall project if people are going to be printing that proposal.
Yeah, if they need it, save it as a PDF, upload it to inside of a project here to the document library if they don't have it. But that's how our software is designed. I mean, you have to have the license to have the proposal piece. That's how the software is designed.
They're asking the master schedule calendar changes. if it's updated, does it update their calendar as well?
Not you can't do an iCal push from the master calendar. You have to go into the service and the project calendar. So the master calendar does not have an iCal option. You have to go into the service and set up the service iCal, and then go into the project and set up the project iCal. And then basically at that point, you will get everything pushing up to your calendar. You just can't go to the master calendar and set up the iCal itself.
They're asking not about the iCal, the tech calendar is what they meant.
What are they asking about the tech
So
calendar?
if there's master schedule changes, does it update the tech calendars?
Oh yeah. That all that's tied to that. So when you do a change here, it updates the employee calendar automatically, which is the individual tech calendars. Any other questions?
When keeping track of time for multiple techs, is there a place to go instead of having to go back and forth between tabs of reporting for a total of the week to see and the time tracking tab?
So they want to see all the time tracking for all the employees? Is that what it is? Because you can do that. You can select time period and you can hit all employees, or it's going to be individual ones.
Yeah, I believe that's what they were asking.
Yeah, so you either can do all or individual.
In the deal address, can it select a default address to contact so I don't have to retype the address for each deal?
Not right now. That's actually on a feature request on our list already. So hopefully in the near future we'll get that enhancement rolled out after inventory and stuff. But that's already on our feature request. So we do have that on our radar. And maybe probably do one more and then we'll have to wrap it up because we're pushing 20 minutes after.
They're asking about that same, about the just for the week to edit for payroll is what they're looking for.
Well, for payroll, I would probably do, I mean, if you want to do all employees, you can do that for the, custom dates and select the date range that you want, and then hit all employees, and then it'll bring over all the employees for that, then all their times for that week. Or it's or it's going to be each individual. That's just that's the way it's set up.
Okay, that seems to be it.
All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for taking the time out of their busy schedule to join us for this webinar. And like I said, I'm going to try to do a couple of these a month for the best practices and stuff. Hope you have a good rest of your day, and thank you.